Welcome to the Master Your Mindset and Metabolism podcast. I'm your host, Kelly Dunlap, creator of kellydunlap.com. I am a mindset and metabolism specialist who helps women reprioritize their health, balance their hormones, and reboot their metabolism so they can regain their energy, finally lose the weight, and feel confident in their own skin. I help women break up with the start-over syndrome, all or nothing mindset, get them off the diet wagon so they can create a consistent plan for a sustainable, healthy lifestyle free of diets. In this podcast, we will talk about all the things mindset, metabolism, the role our hormones play in all of this, and how to reboot your mindset and metabolism so you can finally step into your new empowered life. Thank you so much for being here and pressing play. Now let's begin. Hello, gorgeous. Kelly here. Welcome to this amazing episode with my dear friend, Andrea Robertson. Andrea is absolutely amazing. She is from Australia. You're going to fall in love with her accent. She's super cool, and she has lived such an incredible, amazing life, and she shares a lot of her story, and it's just so powerful and so cool to see how one thing led to another and where she is today and her great, amazing success. And we talk, oh my goodness, about so many topics. I mean, you know how I am. I love to gab. And we just had the most fun conversation. And some of the topics we talked about were financials. We talked about just how things happen for you, of course, because you know me, that's what I love. And we talked about fascia. Now, if you are not familiar with fascia, this is going to be even more incredible of an episode for you because it's just so fascinating. I am so fascinated by our body's fascia. And she is a osteopath, nutritionist, and naturopath. And she intertwines all of these practices together. And she helps women just like I do. Once again, a very, similar with coaching, but she has all these integrative things that she combines, and they're really, really super cool. And she's also a business coach as well. So that's pretty cool to see her helping other, coaches in the industry as well. And I'm just really, really excited for you to hear this episode and learn from Andrea because she has some really good tips and insight, and just her life and, where it all stems from is really super cool. So without further ado, I will quit gabbing and we will just get on with the episode, shall we? And we will see you in the next one. Hey guys, I'm so excited to have you here today and introduce my dear friend, Andrea Robertson. Andrea is a naturopath. She's also a nutritionist and an osteopath, and she specializes in women who are in the midlife, which is basically we do a lot of the same things. And so it's just awesome to connect with like-minded women. She and I are in the same mastermind with Nicole Spencer, and it's just so refreshing to speak with somebody who is on the same page, who's, trying to build an empire, who kind of struggles with the same things at times and just, walking the same path, but always needing kind of like this support group of reinforcement so that we are uplifting and, helping each other along. So welcome. I am so happy to have you here, Andrea.
Thanks, Kelly. And it's just, can I say, it's been such a pleasure getting to know you over the last I've been in the mastermind for nearly over 12 months now, but we've had some really lovely, intimate little groups that we've been a part of, and it's just been so lovely. And we are on the same kind of path. We really are doing similar things, and it's so lovely to be able to support each other.
Yes, absolutely agree. Yeah. So I've been in there for almost a year. I think February will be a year, but being in our little mini mastermind has been amazing. And I'm so grateful. And I know this last little round that you and I were in, you really helped me a lot when it came to the separate accounts. We talk about all the things, right? So people might think, well, what do you do in a mastermind? It's we talk about all kinds of shit. And, that particular time, I was like, why do I have this feeling of how do I pay for this? What am I going to pay for? And let me just tell you, that little nugget of information has been so helpful and so insightful for me that it changed everything. And it just took away this unnecessary stress. It was the weirdest thing.
It was it.
It was seriously like, I think I have five different accounts. What was the book that you had?
Oh, yes. The accounts.
Profit First.
Profit First, and The Barefoot Investor is my other favorite finance book by an Australian author.
Yes. So you and Nicole had said, oh yeah, Profit First. And so I literally listened to probably the first chapter that I felt I needed at that time, because you know how sometimes if you just keep listening, you're like, okay, this is just going to confuse the shit out of me and I can't even go any further. But just hearing that was super helpful. So let me just tell you guys what it is. So, or what happened really. So I had gone into our little chat and I just said, I don't know why I feel this way, but when I go to pay for things, I have this hesitation and almost like this worry of how do I pay for this? What do I use? Do I use it out of this account? Do I use a credit card? Do I And it was just like the weirdest thing. And I'm like, I am over it. Like, I don't want to hear that chatter in my head anymore, because there is still, let's just face it, even like Nicole had talked about in our mastermind about how no matter where you are, if you believe that you're not worthy of it, or if you know, whatever it is that the story is that you're telling yourself, you could be making $1 gazillion and still feel like you're not making enough. You know, that was powerful. Right. And so, you know, we're still working through all of those things, and me especially, and I've gotten a lot better, even like over the last year, like Nicole has even said, like, you're unrecognizable in the sense of how I, you know, am more, less hesitant when it comes to making investments and things like that. So anyway, all that said, so both Andrea and Nicole had said Profit First. And what he talks about is creating these different accounts. And I was like, okay. So I immediately did that. And it's so cool because one of my accounts is called self-care. Another one of my accounts is called home operations. Another one is called like groceries and miscellaneous.
Yep, I've got all these ones too.
Yeah, isn't it so fun? And then another one is called, which is the name of like 2 major payments that come out of my, you know, whatever. So I just put those in there. And then my other account, which is a business account, is called Business Wealth. So I named it that strategically, you know, because I'm transplanting that thought into my brain. So that was such a huge, huge thing. So I'm sharing this, you guys, because this is why it is important to involve yourself in things like groups of women that are trying to achieve the same thing in life, because there are things that they have gone through that maybe you might be tipping your toe in, or that you still need to break through. So Andrea was just like a true light for me in that regard. And it helped me to feel so much better. And it's literally those little tiny micro thoughts that we have that can just, you know, really be an anchor and keep us in a low vibration. So thank you for that, my friend.
My pleasure. Yeah, it's such a good book and it's such a good practice. Except I have to tell you, the only time it's a little bit embarrassing is I'm doing just a remortgage on my house at the moment, and I had to send in a list of all my accounts to my mortgage broker. And I'm like, this is for my puppy dog. This is for my clothes shopping. This is for...
Yeah. And you know what? That's so funny how you said it seems a little bit embarrassing. And isn't it interesting how we have that fear of judgment of people who are scrutinizing or looking at our financials, even though we know that you're in a really great financial, you know, circumstance, just because I know what you have shared, you know, I'm just putting that out there, but anyway, that's okay. But at the end of the day, we still feel like, okay, we're underneath this microscope, and because this doesn't look like the typical person's account, this is how I operate. It makes us feel a little bit different or strange or whatever it is. Right. But actually it's brilliant. It is absolutely brilliant. And it really helped me to look at and recognize and take the lid off the trash can, so to speak, on certain areas of where I was spending.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know if I haven't got money in my like clothes shopping account, I don't go clothes shopping. Like, it's just the way it is. That's what I've decided my budget is on each separate account. And then I spend it if it's there. I've done all my budgets on my bills, so I know everything in my bills account is going to cover everything I need to pay. So there's just no stress.
Yeah, there is. It truly is. And it's really, really amazing. So thank you so much for taking the time. See, Andrea is in Australia. If you haven't figured that out already, you'll hear her lovely accent. And she's like, how many hours ahead? More than 12?
I don't know. What time are you?
5 p.m. right now.
Yes, it's 9 a.m. for me tomorrow, in your tomorrow.
So you are like 16 hours ahead, right? Would that be correct? 5 a.m., 5, 6. Yeah. So that would be, yeah. So, yeah. So it'd be kind of cool because in our mastermind Voxer chat that we had going on, I would wake up to, what's it? Yeah. She would already be ahead. And it was kind of cool because we would hear our messages at different times. And it was just kind of fun, to get those. I'm like, oh, I really like that insight. So, all right. So thank you again for that. And I want to talk a lot about your history and kind of like what got you here. And I think recently I had seen a post on your Facebook. Maybe you dabbled in a little bit of modeling or something, or and so I would love to hear your story, however far back you want to go. But I would love to hear, where it all began.
Okay. It all began when I was 3, I think, and I went to a dance class. I started ballet when I was 3, and I went on to have a career as a professional dancer for many, many years all over the world.
Wow.
Do you know that?
No, I didn't know that. That's so cool.
Yeah. So I was trained in classical ballet, and then I grew too tall to be a ballerina, and there's so many interesting pathways, but I wanted to go to the Australian Ballet School, and I was told, yes, you can come, but you have to go through the audition process. And I went to my audition, and the day before my audition, I went to a ballet class, and I did this tiny little exercise for anyone who's listening who's a ballerina. It's called a glissade jeté. And I rolled my ankle and I broke my 5th metatarsal the night before my audition. So it's not a bad break.
That happened for you probably. You didn't probably see it at that time. So I'm very curious to hear.
Exactly. So it's not a big break. It's only 3 weeks healing, but it's not where you can go to an audition and dance the next day.
Mm-hmm.
So, I went to university instead, studied osteopathy. And then while I was at university, I discovered this other world of dance, which is more jazz and musical theatre and cabaret kind of stuff. And then the Moulin Rouge came to Australia and was auditioning right on kind of riding the wave of when the movie came out in year 2000. And so I auditioned and I got in. So I went off to Paris and I danced at the Moulin Rouge for a couple of years, and then all over Europe and America as well on cruise ships. And at the same time, I was already a qualified osteopath. So I was still treating patients and other dancers and set up little businesses everywhere I went. And then came back to Australia in my late 20s and still dancing. Probably did that for a couple more years until I was like, okay, I think I'm done. I think I've done everything I want to do dance-wise. And I opened my clinic as an osteopath. So for 15 years, I had a big allied health clinic in Adelaide. It's a capital city in Australia. And over that time, I also studied naturopathy and nutrition because I was really, really passionate about visceral manipulation as an osteopath. So that's using your hands to work on organs and releasing fascial adhesions and stuff. And I thought, rather than like chatting to patients about, here I am doing some visceral manipulation, rather than chatting like, what did you do on the weekend? I'd rather chat about nutrition and health and get them some right supplements to really help them heal with what was going on under my hands.
Yeah.
And so, I studied those 2 qualifications as well. And that was kind of to get me into that clinical place of having those 3 qualifications. And then I had at one point 2 boutique fitness studios because at the same time I was really into the bar workouts and I was teaching people all over the world how to become bar instructors. And that was my first actual online course, was an online bar teacher training program.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, I had 2 boutique fitness studios, the clinic at one point, over 30 staff and over $1 million turnover. And it was stressful. And I found along the way that I wasn't able to, you get taken away from the clinical aspect when you have to run a big business.
Okay.
And so really to have been successful in that business, it was really successful, but I often didn't get to pay myself as much as I deserved. And it was on all the time. And I think to be successful when you get that big in a clinic that big, you either have to downsize and be small and do the clinical aspect, or step yourself out of the clinical aspect and just run the whole thing, which is what I didn't want to do.
Yeah.
So I did downsize a little at one point. I had a really tough time. I think you and I have talked about it before. In 2017, I had, it was kind of at the point where I was downsizing, and I was part of a franchise with the bar studio, and the franchise went through some really tricky things. And so I closed that, and I think it made my staff think that everything was about to fall apart. So I had this whole big group of them jump ship, and I had 9 resignations in 12 days. Oh. It was nuts. And I was that stressed. I can't even tell you how stressed I was. Hating my business, and I could hear them, like they would talk about me behind my back. You know, when it's like a primary school or a high school, you'd walk into a room and everyone's talking, and they'd stop.
And you just know the energy. It feels different too.
It was awful. And if I could have left, I would have left, but it was my business. I was stuck in it. Anyway, so I did what I know how to do, and that's work harder and see more patients and just keep stepping ahead, and restructured the whole business, turned into this really beautiful business model, really got some really beautiful staff who are still there today. Like it just,
wow.
It was the best. The last 3 years I had there was the best 3 years in the business ever. But it was at that time too that I realized I needed to be bigger than my hourly rate. And I started working with a mindset coach. And it was probably like I booked in with him for a block of 10 weeks. And it was probably about week 6. I was like, oh, I need to go online. Like I need to be bigger than my hourly rate. And so that was the bar teacher training course. And over the years too, I'd also written a nutrition book, and I was running 60-day challenges as part of my bar studios. And that was sort of movement and nutrition. And then I was at this point too where the business was going well again. Everyone was happy. And I thought and COVID hit, but we were okay. Like where I was living, we were able to keep working, and it was all fine. But then I came across, our lovely coach, Nicole, in some random Facebook group, and somebody said, yeah, you need to, not to me, to someone else, said, oh, Nicole Spencer's the best like fitness business coach. And I was like, who's this girl?
Yes.
Looked her up. Yeah.
Same thing happened with me. Really? I was inside of Women Helping Women Entrepreneur group, I think. Yeah. And somebody had commented or asked, oh my God, this would be crazy if it was your, but what if we saw the same post? Oh, okay. It was so crazy because that's how I found Nicole, is somebody commented saying Nicole Spencer. So I went and looked her up, and then the rest is history. But anyway, so you find Nicole.
And find Nicole. And I remember I'd had a meeting with my accountant because he was telling me what my tax return was going to be. And he said, you've got $12,000 tax return. And Nicole had just told me the night before how much the course was costing, which in Australian dollars, it converted to just under 9,000. And he was giving me this whole you can invest it and you can put some money away for if the business doesn't go well in the next little while. In my head, I'm like, I'm not telling you, but I'm spending it tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly.
Best thing I ever did. Absolutely, hands down, the best thing I ever did. So I turned my recipe book into a program. That was what I wanted to do. And so that 60-day challenge then turned into a program. And I didn't even really know the difference between a course and a coaching program at that stage. Like I didn't really know there was a main difference. And Nicole kind of, said, you need to go this way. This is what will work. And at the start too, I had a couple of different ideas. Did I want to do business coaching? Because I was already doing that for other clinic owners. Did I want to do the nutrition mindset movement program? Did I want to do the bar teacher training? So her and I kind of nutted that out, went into the nutrition mindset movement program that I created. And in the last, it's been about 18 months. And so in the last 18 months, I've had over 200 women through the program, had a huge successful launch, hugely successful first year. It's been amazing. Yeah. And now I've just worked with Nicole to do, the business coaching certification as well. And I'm now teaching health and wellness clinic owners, the same as me, how to stop trading time for money by launching a profitable online course. Mm-hmm. So
I love and I love how everything just happened for you, because if you really think about it, if we chunk it all down, we can go all the way back to when you hurt your foot and weren't able to audition the next day.
Exactly. Those sliding doors kind of moments. Like it's like that movie. It totally is.
Oh my God. That is just so amazing. Like it's the coolest thing ever to see that. And the thing is, it's devastating at the time, but then we come to a point in our life where just like, okay, I know that this is all happening for me. And just kind of like with the women who left you in 9 resignations within 12 days and things like that, it was devastating. It felt awful and terrible. But I think that one of the things that we always have to go back to, and this is something that I've been working on, as you know, within the last few months, is just really leaning into the trust of that I know that the universe has my back, and that I know when these kind of fucked up things happen that we don't expect, or that we, think is like totally disastrous at the time, that we know that this is happening for us. And so it's a really good place to be when you're able to see that now. So it's kind of like when we have our group coaching calls with Emma Churchman, for example. I remember somebody jumping on and they were fearful about how this person resigned and this person left and this person left, and all these clients are jumping off, and I'm in the background going, there's going to be an up level. This is good news, Yeah. And that's what Emma was saying. No, they're just not in line with where you're going anymore. So there's going to be, something good happening. So it's good to be there, and as an entrepreneur, like you've been a long time entrepreneur, we have to get comfortable with those contractions and expansions, as Nicole calls it, right? You do. And not take them personally when it happens. We just have to know that it is the universe saying, hey, we got something bigger for you.
Yeah, I think though you've got to go through a few of those to realize that's what it is. The first time you're like,
you do. And yes, and it's funny that you say that, because I totally agree with that 1000%. And I think that when some people go through either one, even that's when they turn the truck around and say, forget this, I'm not doing this anymore, and they just give up. Right. But it's the ones that hang in there, and you, even though you're scared and you feel sick to your stomach, you still move and go anyway. And it's so worth it in the end.
Absolutely. I really, from that time in 2017, like I just learned so much that I have massive strength and massive resilience. And that's to know that about yourself, to be able to then go forwards with that knowing is really powerful. Like, and that it's given me the confidence, and, I just keep doing everything without any worry or fear anymore.
Right. Exactly. The resilience, I think, is such a great word. And, just knowing that it's there and it will pop up from time to time, and just keep moving anyway. It's almost like, oh, hey, you're here again. Really? It's kind of like this, almost like somebody that's annoying that shows up, and you're like, oh God, you got to sit next to me. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Oh, you're here again. Fuck. But okay, now I'm excited because, I don't like you being here, but I know that there's something good coming on the other side.
Exactly. Like it's always just before an up level, isn't it? That's something where you get challenged, and you've got to get comfortable with being uncomfortable, because that uncomfortableness is when there's change happening.
Yes. It's so funny because as we're talking about this, I am feeling that feeling just because we're talking about it, and I feel it, like in my gut and in my throat, and in my gut and in my throat, because I get it. And like even like, as I was saying in the beginning of this, before we even hit record, like, okay, I am redoing some things. I am recalibrating, I am restructuring, and I'm doing, and as to be expected, there is this phase which I'm in, but I trust, and I know that I know that on the other side of this, it's going to be purely magical. And I'm like, bring it.
Absolutely.
Just bring it. But anyway, so that's really, really amazing. I had no idea that you were in the whole dance thing, but of course, it totally makes sense, with the whole bar stuff and, things like that. And, but let me ask you this question. You have evolved into helping other women with their businesses and such now through Nicole's certification that she has available. What do you think that I can't say what you like better, but do you feel like you're pulled towards one aspect of your business or the other? Like, do you think that you like that? I'm just very curious.
I love it. I love the business coaching stuff. Like but I've always been multi-passionate, Kelly. I really, really have. And I think it's okay. And I think it's okay to keep being passionate about different aspects. Like with my bar stuff, I've got a YouTube channel, and in the last couple of months, because I've been focusing on the business coaching program, I haven't filmed any workouts. And I've had a number of my subscribers saying, have you stopped filming workouts? I'm like, well, I just put it on pause for a little while. I can't do everything. But, I could just go and put all in on the business coaching program and my nutrition clients and forget about my bar, but I love it. So why would I do that? So yeah. But my nutrition coaching program, I've got an amazing assistant coach who started working with me. And so I couldn't do that at the capacity I was doing last year and have my business coaching clients. So I just love to do a bit of everything. So I'll have a business coaching clients, got my assistant coach come into the nutrition program. So she's amazing. She's another osteopath. We went to university together, and she's a functional medicine practitioner as well. So we're on the same path, and she's been a great support the last couple of months since she joined from my little business. Mm-hmm. And then I've got a virtual assistant as well. So just sort of starting to build that team allows you to still be able to be passionate about a couple of different areas.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I was just thinking. You build it how it will be conducive to supporting your needs, because, we do tend to have these multiple interests, especially as entrepreneurs. It's just what we are like. We get a little bit excited about this, and then we have that, and we can pull this in and do that. Oh, let's educate ourselves in this and da, da, da. And sometimes we have to have somebody pull us down to the ground. Like I visualize myself like hanging on to these like 20 different balloons and I'm floating, you know what I mean? But then I've got my operations manager that says, hey, okay, I need to pull you down now. Like, hello, we were focusing on this and now you want to go over here. And I do have a tendency to do that. But like you said, you have the ability to build your business in a way that is going to support your needs. And we're just creatives, right? And so we love to learn, we love to create. And so, you have to have that support staff and such that will allow, that to happen, which is such a beautiful thing to work for ourselves, because we can build it out however it is that we want to fit in our life versus trying to fit a round peg into or square, whatever, into a round hole or whatever that whole saying is. You know what I'm saying? Like, because I know that when I was working for somebody else, that's how I felt every day. Was like, I feel like I'm trying to fit into something that I know I don't belong in. Like it was death to my soul. I mean, that's the only way I can ever describe it. Felt terrible.
I remember my first, when I got back from dancing overseas, and the first osteopath job I did, it was perfect for me because I was working for another osteopath, but he had his clinic and then he put me in this other clinic and kind of just let me do my own thing. So it was essentially like I was running my own business.
Yeah.
Then at one point he started to want to try and like micromanage me a little bit. And I was like, hang on. Doesn't work
and then all of a sudden you're like, okay, wait, that doesn't feel good. But that was cool that he did that, because then it allowed you to kind of figure out what felt good and what didn't. And then all of a sudden when you tried to micromanage, that's when you realize like, okay, I cannot.
I could not be an employee. I definitely could not be an employee.
Yes, it's a terrible, terrible feeling. Like, being micromanaged is god awful. So anyway, so that's super, super cool to see that you have, extended that branch out. And just like you, I know you had mentioned something to me about, hey, you might want to, take Nicole's course or whatever, that I have this desire to help. I don't want to say lower level. That sounds terrible, but let's say maybe level 1 coaches or beginning coaches or coaches that are just starting out. It's, maybe they are, in a position where they want to take on more complicated clients. Right. Yeah. So it's like kind of like helping Kelly Dunlap 5 years ago when she was first starting out. It was like somebody came in my sphere saying, well, I've got this autoimmune disease and a thyroid problem. I was like, what do I do? You
definitely need a mentor on that clinical aspect. And I worked with 2 amazing mentors when I was, with osteopathy, it was a bit different. I was working in a clinic early on. And so, but I've been doing that for 22 years. But when I started doing the naturopathy, the nutrition 10 years ago, like I had 2 amazing mentors, and I still work really closely with one of them, because you need someone to be able to help and throw the ideas around with.
Yes. Having that mentor and still having a mentor in that regard is like life changing. But yeah, so I think about being that mentor, like my mentor to to those, beginning coaches and things like that, so that they can have the confidence to take on a little more complicated case with staying in scope.
Yep.
That's super important, right? Is staying in our scope of practice. And I think, for some coaches, there is this thinking where it's kind of like, I can't do anything for this person, when actually there is, even if it's like a lifestyle suggestion, or even maybe a lifestyle practice, or maybe even a food suggestion, or, something like that, but there's no diagnosing going on, but there is something. There is something.
Always something you can do.
Yeah,
always
absolutely. 1,000%. 1,000%. So
I see that in the naturopathy nutrition side and in the osteo side. Like, I used to have a couple of new graduate osteopaths working for me over the years. And I remember one patient came in with a really acute cervical disc prolapse, and it was really obvious. Mm-hmm. And the patient was in so much pain, and they're like, "Oh, I don't want to touch them or do anything." I'm like, "No, we can always do something." Like, it's a really gentle osteopathy technique called counter strain and functional release. So it's like hardly moving the body, and you can just do really gentle kind of myofascial release. Mm-hmm. And so I did that because this associate was too scared to touch the patient. I did that, and at least it got them out of pain enough to go to the hospital and get some MRIs and, then get the treatment they need.
Yeah.
There's always something you can do. And it's the same in, autoimmune and thyroid and the tricky gut stuff. Like, there's always something little we can do that just starts on that little pathway.
Little tweak. Exactly. So I am fascinated with fascia.
Yes.
Fascinated by that. So we're going to go down this pathway. My first introduction to fascia, I would say, like, where I was truly paying attention, was with the fascia blaster with Ashley Black. Now, my friend got one, and I was like, okay, that's got to be some kind of a gimmick. Like, okay, what is she doing? Okay. But then when I started to see that there was really truly like this whole fascia thing, and this thing is really real within our body, and oh my God, like, this is kind of cool. Like, whatever. So tell me a little bit about fascia and your point of view, because there's always a different point of view, right? But I also follow, and you might be familiar with this guy, but he calls himself, his name is Gary, and he's part of this, it's called the Human Garage, and he's all about fascia, and it's extremely interesting techniques. So it's pretty cool, but tell me your point of view. I'd love to see and hear different points of view, because that's what we're all about, right? Is we all have our different point of view and experience and things like that. So tell me about yours.
Well, fascia it's an amazing connective tissue in our body. So fascia is something that surrounds all of our muscles and all of our organs, and kind of holds things in place and forms into ligaments and tendons, and it puts muscles into compartments. So it's something that holds our whole body together. Like, we've got our skeleton.
Let me ask you this: is fascia, is it separate? Is it like an entire bag that is inside our body, or are they separate fascia containers? Does that make sense?
All joined up.
Oh, so it's all.
You're gonna love this, right? This is a clinical diagnosis that I do as an osteopath, and I learned this from a French osteopath called Jean-Pierre Barral.
Okay.
And he's the one who teaches the visceral manipulation, and so he has a diagnostic technique called listening that is named listening. So you place your hand on top of someone's head, and this, you can't just do it without like good palpation and use it. Like, it takes so long to kind of feel. But I'll put my hand on top of a patient's head, ask them to close their eyes, do a tiny little fascial load, and then as you come off, you'll feel their body kind of pulling in a direction. So that's like the fascia will have a pull. So say somebody's got, let's say endometriosis, right? It's down here at that point in your pelvic area. And if my t-shirt is my fascia, like, it does that to your body when there's an organ problem, or even a liver, like, it does this to your body. So let's say it's liver, because you can see on the screen.
Yeah.
Liver makes your whole body pull this way in a really tiny, like, you can't see it like this.
Yeah.
So I'll see somebody in the clinic with, like, say, liver's on this side, actually. I'm looking at myself in the reflection, and I was like, it's on that side. It's on that side. So somebody with right shoulder pain, like, I've treated so many people with right shoulder pain, but it doesn't get better if you're just treating the shoulder, because you come to the liver and it's doing that with the fascia, pulling it all forwards. Release the liver, it opens the shoulder up, it stops the impingement in the liver.
Magical.
And the person can move their arms again.
magical. And that right there, that whole twisting of that little visual that you showed, that is the first time that I had that type of a visual of the twisting. That Human Garage guy taught or shared that about that twisting. So to see you know, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm so fascinated by that. Like that is just brilliant. And it makes so much sense.
Yeah, it's amazing. And so I love in the clinic because I can do a listening on a patient, pulls to whichever organ. And then you do, this is called a general listening. Then you can do a local listening, which is like feeling more locally, but you can feel like in the gastrointestinal system, is it going to which sphincter in the GI tract is a sphincter that's dysfunctional. So you can work out if it's ileocecal or the lower esophageal sphincter or the pyloric, and then you can work out exactly where there's a little problem and tweak that. Yeah, it's amazing. I love it.
Wow.
So just around everything. And even like I had, I was teaching a bunch of new grad osteopaths about the listening diagnosis and do it kind of like a game. And any scar tissue as well. Like, scar tissue is like,
yes, like I have a C-section. I have a C-section with that whole bump. I need somebody to work on that.
Yeah. But this student, I was like, oh, it's on your left side and you can work out if it's above or below the pelvis. And that's my right side, actually. I'm not going well with my rights and lefts today.
That's okay. Yeah.
Anyway, and then I was like, just feel her general listening that. And she had a pair of trousers on. And I was like, you've got a knee problem. And she was like, no way. Anyway, I'd had some really big knee surgery and 10 years before, and everything was pulling to her right knee. So then I'm like, you just need to unwind that right knee and unwind the fascia, and then everything else kind of unwinds and unravels. Yes. And another one, you'll love this story for where your
it's brilliant.
Had another patient who she'd been around the traps and had seen, 5 or 6 other different therapists for low back pain. So constant low back pain. And I did the listening on her, all pulls forward. And we'd already done a case history, and she told me that she'd had gastric banding and then lost a lot of weight and then had the skin removed. So a big scar like across the lower abdominal region.
Yeah.
And I said to her, look, I'm sure it's the scar tissue.
Yeah.
Can you just trust me? I'm just going to treat your front and the stomach and the scar. I'm not going to treat your back today. I just want to see if just treating this, what it does to your back. Whereas if I do both, we're not really going to know what's what. Comes back first time in like years, she hasn't had back pain just from releasing that lower scar. Yeah,
I believe it. I believe it 1000%. It's so interesting. I've had 3 C-sections and a tummy tuck. Yeah. So I have, first there was the 2 C-sections and the tummy tuck and everything was fine. Well, it seemed fine anyway, and then I had my surprise little one. So then I have this other, so that kind of pouchy thing came back, which is, I tried like, oh, I'm going to massage this thing every day and all the time. And, of course it didn't happen. So now I've got that poochy thing there, and it's just hard. And for me to have to be able to dig into that the way that somebody told me I had to, I can't. I just feel like I need somebody else to do it or something.
And it doesn't need to be firm. It just needs to be in the right direction and unwinding in the right way. You need to find yourself a good osteopath, my darling, who does visceral manipulation close to you.
There we go. See?
Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah. Wow. That is so cool. And I love how you're able to do that listening. That's really neat. So it's kind of like, it reminds me of muscle testing, which I'm sure you're familiar with. I don't know if you even do it or not, but that's kind of fascinating to me, how it's like, oh, the arm gets weak when, whatever. Yeah. But yeah, I really love that. And it's too bad you can't do that to somebody online.
I know, that's the only thing I can't do with my online clients, because you can't feel the fascia through the internet.
Oh God, I wish somebody could figure that out.
Yeah.
Because that would be like super cool. It's like I always have this tightness back here, and I always feel like I'm constantly pulling, and I'm like, I feel like almost like it's something needs to be lengthened.
Maybe it's your scar at the front, darling. Like
it could be that's causing that, isn't? Yeah. See. Wow. Yeah. That's just so cool. I could see how that would be like, I want to be in that clinic, because that is so life-changing for somebody.
Yeah, it's amazing, because there's so many people that have been to everything else, and it's not until you actually listen to the body and you can feel what the body's telling you and sometimes I say to my patients, look, I have no clinical reasoning to tell you why your, I don't know, right shoulder pain is coming from your left knee.
Yeah.
This is what your body's telling me. I trust in my hands enough and what I'm feeling. So we're just going to treat the right knee, and then boom, their shoulder's better. Like, it's amazing.
So when you say treat somebody's knee, what does that look like? Is it literally like you do something with your hands to move something or what have you?
If it was as an osteopath, if it was for the right shoulder, say, and I felt a fascial wind up down to the left knee, which can happen, it would be a lot of fascial release techniques. So hands-on, treating the knee, probably treating the pelvis, and doing each time checking that listening, so you can feel the local listening, and then extended listening to if you have to connect a fascial unwind between the hip and the knee, or the hip and the shoulder, or the knee and the shoulder.
Yeah, that makes total sense. That's really, really cool. Oh my God, brilliant.
Yeah, I love it.
It is the coolest thing ever. Wow. So were you born and raised in Australia?
Yeah. I was born and raised on a farm. My parents are farmers.
That's super cool. Tell me about the farm. Like what was that all about?
Mum and dad my mum was a teacher and dad's a cattle farmer. And we're they are still on the farm, and they're about 50 minutes from the local closest town. So for my school and my ballet lessons, mum and dad were always driving me into town and back. But yeah, They're still on the farm, and I've now in the last year moved closer to them. So I live about an hour from them now in a seaside town.
Yeah.
And that's what the online space has given me, like the opportunity to be able to work from anywhere and do anything. I still go back to my Adelaide clinic, and I call it my guest appearances, make guest appearances and see some old patients there. And I love doing it from time to time, but mostly just online now, because we can be anywhere
in the world, which is amazing.
Yeah. Can you hear that noise that's happening in my ceiling?
No, I can't hear that.
You can't hear it. I think there's like a rat in my ceiling.
That is
shuffling around.
Patter. That's hilarious. Yeah. Excuse me. So you were raised on a farm. They were raising cattle.
Yeah.
And do they still raise cattle now to this day? Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So my dad's incredible. He's 78 and still running around after the cows. And my brother is on the farm now, and they're doing a bit of a succession transfer over in the next couple of years, and he'll be the helper and the assistant.
Yeah, that's so cool. That's pretty amazing stuff.
Mum caters for all the workers that come onto the farm. Like, she's always, feeding, like, she's in her mid-70s, and she's always feeding like 8 people for lunch, 12 people for lunch, 10 people for morning tea, like just beautiful cooking and food for all of these people that are working on the farm. Yeah.
Wow. So let me kind of go back to, so you were a dancer and you did all this amazing dancing, and did you ever have any, because oftentimes some, our own journeys, as far as like for me, I, drank heavy and gained a bunch of weight. And then that led me into the whole fitness thing and stuff like that. Did you ever have any issues with food? Did you ever have any type of, body image problems or, anything like that?
No, I was always really long and lean. So I had a perfect little body as a dancer. Mm-hmm. I had a lot of health problems in my late 20s, and that I think was just from pushing too hard. Like, I was socializing and partying every night, probably drinking too much, working all day, every day. And I was working in the osteo clinic in the daytime, doing shows every night, and then going out after that and doing it on repeat. Yeah. And I ended up, with big burnout, adrenal fatigue type situation. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was kind of the starting journey of me, being really understanding how naturopathy worked and how much it helped me. So that was the naturopath I ended up seeing is now my mentor still. She's amazing. And so had this, it was a 12-week period where also another clinic had asked me to do some locum osteopath work. So locum's like when you just, I don't know if it's the same word you use, but it's when you pop in and fill in for a couple of weeks when someone's away. Mm-hmm. And so I was working with 80 patients a week, and a normal load's about 40 for a full-time osteopath, plus 6 shows a week. plus still socializing, of course. And it was about week 10. I was treating a patient. I was sitting down with my, doing something with their neck, and my vision started like closing over like this, like black curtains coming over. And I just I just walked up and left the patient, which I would never do, but I just couldn't even talk. I just got up and went to my receptionist and said, something's wrong with me. And she was like, oh, it is. And she took me over the road. We had a doctor's clinic across the road. They sent me straight to hospital in an ambulance. My whole body was in like a seizure on the right-hand side.
Wow.
And they kept me in, and they were doing brain scans and checking everything. And I don't know, I had this kind of inherent knowing in my body that there was nothing really wrong. It was just like burnout. Like I kind of knew that.
Yeah.
But anyway, I was sent home and said, diagnosis, migraine without a headache. Which is really weird.
Yeah, the what do they call it? Something migraine.
But I didn't even have migraine. I think that was all they needed to give me.
That's the weirdest thing. Yeah.
Because there's nothing else that turned up. And over the next 10 weeks, I put on 10 kilos. And so then I was stressed because I'd never put on weight before. And I was like running every day, which now I know makes it worse what I was going through. But running every day. And I heard about this naturopath. Someone said, you should go see her. And I couldn't get in with her for 4 weeks because my work was, too busy. And if I'd known, I would have like stopped work for the day and gone and seen her. But anyway, she just said, yeah, it all makes sense. And I remember just feeling understood because I thought I was going mad and I was feeling depressed, and I'm never depressed. Like it was just awful.
Yep.
And over a week, I lost all 10 kilos, and I literally sat on the toilet and peed because it was all just crazy fluid retention and inflammation. Yep. And then it took me, she got me gluten-free, dairy-free, sugar-free, and I was strict on that for about 3 years. And then it wasn't until I was heaps better, but not perfect. And I still had a lot of visual disturbances. Like if I was in a room with fluorescent lights, like it was really irritating, and I would get lots of floaties in my eyes. And
yeah.
And so that was the last kind of symptom, and being still quite sensitive to foods. But then I went completely free of all preservatives and additives. Mm-hmm. And then that was when I got full health back again. Yeah.
It's so fascinating to hear how, you listened to your body, and so many of us are running around not paying attention to what the body is saying. And all the time you see this, even like, hey, there's a show on called Dr. Pimple Popper. And okay, it's like, why didn't you get this checked out when you saw it this size, but now it's gigantic and growing? Are you familiar with this show? No. It cracks me up because it just shows how these people have these ailments, and then instead of going and being seen, it's like they let me just hurry up and hide because I'm so scared to hear the truth, or I'm really scared to change my lifestyle, or whatever it is. And so now she's got to go in and try to correct all this stuff. And like people show up with these masses all over their stuff. I mean, and it's just like, oh my God, people, we can be preventative. It doesn't have to get to something so bad. As a matter of fact, it shouldn't. And I think that's why you and I do what we do is we have to help course correct a lot of people. We have to help to educate and tell them like, this is why you got to stop being a cardio queen. And we have to help them to understand that, listen, if you keep doing what you're doing, you're just going to keep getting worse and worse and worse and worse, but so many people get so stubborn and they're just like, well, I'm not dying. And this is what's worked for me in the past. This is what I'm going to keep doing. You know what I mean? Like, and you and I both know that those are the people that aren't going to work well with us, but at the end of the day, the body is always telling us, and we just have to be open to those signs. Just like you were like, you walked away from a patient because you knew something was wrong.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because I didn't hear the whispers. It wasn't until my body yelled at me.
Yeah. See, that was to say, so then there you go. So you're admitting to the fact that, hey, there were some other signs that I just wasn't paying attention.
Yeah. And I probably didn't have the understanding either, Kelly, like at that point.
We don't know.
Yeah. And I remember I never drank coffee. This was a whisper I had, never drank coffee in my life. And I started drinking coffee because that was the only thing that could get me through the day. Like even that is a sign.
Yeah. Right.
Which I didn't know.
Exactly. And there's no judgment, like you and I aren't sitting here like saying, oh God, shame on you for not listening to the signs and taking the next steps. Because clearly, I mean, as I was saying, I had gained 50 pounds and this, that, whatever. And I had chronic fatigue, adrenal burnout, fibromyalgia, the whole 9 yards, because I was exercising 3 times a day and eating a potato. I mean, hello. And there were many times I felt like I was going to faint, but I was still going,
Oh, gosh, yeah, no good.
Yeah. And, it's just kind of crazy. But, so if you were to give, 3 tips, and then we'll end our conversation. But if you were to give 3 tips to someone as far as like, listening to their body and, something that they might want to consider practicing every day, or maybe your 3 non-negotiables, something like that, I would love for you to share.
Yeah. My biggest non-negotiable is to eat real food, like just eat real food. Get rid of all the fake stuff, preservatives, additives, chemicals.
I'm with you, girl. I'm with you on that. Big time. Like I was thinking about this today in my head was, you got to be like an ingredient hero. Yes. You really do. You have to be so mindful of your ingredients. It's ridiculous. Okay. So that's
harder for you guys in America too, because yours is all written as ingredients, but ours is written as numbers. So I can say to my clients, no numbers. So it's easy. Because real food's listed as an ingredient and anything fake is listed as a number in a bracket.
Oh, wow. But
there are some sneaky things, like somehow they can put like, hidden sugar in as, maltodextrin. And people don't know that maltodextrin is sugar. Yeah.
Yes. Right. Yeah. Absolutely.
So number 1. Number 2 is always to be kind to yourself.
Yeah.
That's number 3 is to listen to your body. It really is. And listen to the whispers, not just the yelling. And so if something's not right, it's probably not right. Yeah. Like if you really think it's not right, it probably isn't.
Yes. Yeah. I 1000% love every single one of those. And being kind to ourselves is something that is a learned behavior. It really does. It takes really flexing that muscle over and over again to really develop that, and when to recognize when you are being negative and, derogatory toward yourself. But then when we're able to hear those thoughts and say, yeah, no, that's no. That's not true anymore. That is not my truth. And that's never going to be my truth. And that's, super, super helpful. Well, this was a lovely conversation. I am so grateful to have you, join us and share your wealth of knowledge. And I love the whole fascia thing. And that is just really incredible stuff. And I really appreciate you taking the time to share all that. So what we'll do too is if anybody is interested in, connecting with Andrea, what we'll do is I'll get your contact information, anything that you want to share as far as like, maybe your Instagram or Facebook or wherever it is that they can follow you and find you. We will definitely get that in the show notes. So thank you so much again for being here. Yeah, it was a lovely time.
I think you should title this podcast Finances and Fascia.
There you go. Hey, thank you for that help, because oftentimes I'll be going, okay, what do I name this podcast? Because we talk about so many things, but I love that finances and fascia. I love it.
Who would have thought that would go there, Kelly?
You never know. And that's why I love doing podcasts, because I don't like anything scripted. I just like to gab, and you just never know what is going to come out. And I just love it. And I love this podcast so much. So thank you once again. And it was just such a pleasure having you.
It was amazing. Thanks, Kelly.
Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode. If you love what you heard, please be sure to share it with me by leaving a review. If you aren't already following me on social media, come find me on Facebook by searching Kelly Dunlap, or come join me in my Master Your Mindset and Metabolism Facebook group by going to kellydunlap.com/group. I cannot wait to connect with you on the next episode.